Religion is on the rise, and that's tragic. Although some people are attracted to religion for various understandable reasons, religion is not good for human life. Indeed, it's deeply harmful to it. I want to talk today about an alternative to religion, an alternative that's good for human life, rational, secular spirituality. Let's begin by considering the values people think religion provides them. These include purpose and meaning in life, deep contemplation and thoughtfulness about life, moral guidance, guidance about how we should live, community and friendship, inspiration from role models and heroes, beautiful music and other forms of art that extol or represent our highest values, understanding one's self and understanding one's soul and how to grow and develop spiritually, understanding the meaning and role of sex in life, understanding the value and role of family, understanding the nature and importance of integrity and pride and justice and social harmony, and so on. All of these are crucially important life-serving values. But here's the thing. You don't need religion in order to have them. In fact, religion retards the true meaning of all of these values. Let's take them in turn and see how and why this is so. Along the way, we'll consider the secular source and nature of the value in question, and we'll see how all of this adds up. Consider purpose and meaning. What are purposes? What does it mean for something to be meaningful? Well, a purpose is a goal, an intentional aim that we have. It's something like a career or raising a family or setting our sights on a vacation we want to have down the line. Our purposes are intentional, long-range goals that serve our lives. Likewise, meaning implies meaning to someone and for some purpose. Right? The meaning of water is that you can swim in it, and so it's useful in that way, or you can drink it and sustain your life, and it's useful in that way, or you can put a fire out with it, and it's useful that way. So the meaning of something is the significance of it to you for your life. So meaning and purpose don't have anything to do with supernature or religion. They're just aspects of human life that are vitally important to us. We set our own purposes in life. We set and choose our own long-range goals, the things we want to do, the aims we want to accomplish. Likewise, for meaning, the things that are meaningful in our lives are the things that have an impact or significance on our lives. Our friends are meaningful to us because they impact our lives. They're important to our life and our happiness. Our family, if we love our family, are meaningful to us in that same way. Our career is meaningful to us, and so on. So for meaning and purpose, there's just no need for a supernatural power to impose any of this on us. And the problem with the idea of a supernatural power imposing purpose and meaning on our lives is that it means it doesn't come from us. It comes from outside, which means we're the slave to some super tyrant in the sky who's going to tell us what our purpose should be and what the meaning of our life is supposed to be. No, thank you. I don't want somebody else telling me what goals and values I should pursue. And I certainly don't want anyone telling me what is meaningful and not meaningful in my life. I'll decide that for myself. And I think you should too. Take number 2, deep contemplation and thoughtfulness about life. Really is important to think about your life deeply. It's important to be thoughtful about what this short period of time we have. You might live 90 years, maybe 120. With the way technology is moving along, you could live perhaps even longer than that. And that's wonderful. You have a lot of time in one sense and very little time in another. The question is, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to live? How are you going to, use this time that you have? Who are you going to befriend? What projects are you going to take on? What art are you going to consume? You need to think about this stuff, and it's really helpful to have other people who are thoughtful about these kinds of values to talk to about this. It's helpful to have other people who are like-minded to think through, hey, how should we live? What should we do? And, getting together with people at church gives people this kind of camaraderie. But here's the thing. You don't have to go to church for that. You can have friends over for a cookout. You can, have friends over with their family to go to the neighborhood pool for a swim and spend your time there on a Sunday morning. You can go for a walk in the park. with some friends. You can go to an art exhibit or a concert with friends and enjoy the music and the camaraderie and the deep thoughtfulness about your life and your values in all of those kinds of contexts. You just don't need religion or a supernatural being to guide or dictate any of this. And if you do have a supernatural being guiding or dictating this, then your particular thoughtfulness, your particular contemplation about your own life gets interrupted by a bully in the sky, in effect. It gets interrupted by dogma, by someone telling you what you should contemplate and what your conclusions should be in any thinking that you do. Well, again, no thank you. I'll think for myself. I'll contemplate my life myself and with the people I care about and whose opinions I value. So again, you can have these values and you can really only have them by using your own mind here in this actual nature in which we live. Let's take moral guidance, guidance about how we should live. Well, how should we live? What's morally right and wrong? What are the correct and incorrect ways to act? What is good and what is evil? Do we need a super guy in the sky to tell us what is good and bad for our lives? No. If you look at the world and think about what your life requires and think about what things serve your life and what things harm your life, you can figure out what good and bad mean by that very approach. This is the facts of reality that give rise to the need of the concept, such as good and bad, and value and disvalue, and morality and evil. The facts that give rise to the need of these ideas are precisely the fact that we're alive and we want to live, and we're pretty complex beings. We're beings of body and mind, matter and spirit, right? We're not just meat puppets walking around controlled by some outside force. Instead, we're thoughtful beings who have a mind, we have reason, we have free will, we can choose to use our mind, we can choose our values, we can choose and plan long range about what we want to do with our life. And none of this is obvious, but it's all important and it's all true that we can do these things. And a moral code, a proper morality, is simply a guide to help you make your choices and plan your life so that you can act in a way that consistently advances your life and brings you happiness. That's the purpose of morality. And once you understand the purpose of morality, morality becomes a science. How do we live? It's right there in the question that everybody, ascribes to morality. It's about how should we live? That last word, live, is the goal. How do we as human beings, given that we're rational beings, not meaning that we're always rational, but meaning that we have a rational faculty, we have the capacity to reason, how should this animal live? Well, reason is our means of understanding the world and our needs and what we must do and must not do in order to thrive. So that's our primary value. It's our primary life-serving value is reason, our reasoning mind. Another very important value is our emotional faculty. Our emotions are our psychological means of experiencing our values, right? If you have a friend who you love and you get together with him or her to do some fun things, that is very emotionally rich, right? Because this person is a value to you, right? If you have a career that you love and you wake up every morning juiced to go off and do this wonderful work that sustains your life and gives you purpose, that's a really important soul-fueling emotional value, right? Your emotional faculty is your means of psychologically enjoying your life. It's also your means of experiencing negatives in your life. If your good friend comes down with cancer, that's really tragic, and you feel that in your emotional faculty as well, because your emotions are automatic responses, automatic reactions to your values in relation to your thoughts and your experiences in life. So this is a really important aspect of life, your emotions, but they're not your means of knowledge, right? Your reason is your means of knowledge. Your emotional faculty is your psychological means of experiencing your values. So these are super important aspects of human life. We need to know what these things are, what the difference is, which things should guide us, which things should not. And these are moral questions. These are questions about how should we live. And so, if you understand that the purpose of morality is to live as a human being, as the kind of being you are, and you look at your life and you realize, oh, we're the kind of being that lives by means of reason and experiences his values and achieves happiness, this enormously emotionally beautiful state of mind, and that these two things should work together to bring us this harmony with nature and help us to live a beautiful life. Then everything becomes scientific. What does it mean to apply reason to relationships or to my career or to how I spend my time in recreational activities or to the art that I want to enjoy or to my family or to the question of sex or to what kind of social system makes sense for beings whose basic means of living is the use of their minds, and so on and so forth. All of these questions are very answerable once we have the goal of living fully and living as the kind of being we are. So we do need moral guidance, but again, we don't need a guy in the sky telling us what we must do and what we must not do with these contextless commandments. What we need is to use our minds, figure out what the factual requirements of human life and happiness are, codify those into principles to guide our thinking and action, and then live accordingly. This is secular objective morality. And for more details on that, you can look up my brief article, Secular Objective Morality, Look and See, or read Ayn Rand's book, The Virtue of Selfishness, which really spells this out in a book-length series of essays. So here again, yes, we need moral guidance, but we don't need it from a supernatural dictator. We need it from observations of the facts of reality and integrations of those observations into generalizations that we can use to think and live. The next thing that we noted that we need is community and friendship. Do we need other people and relationships and good relationships with other people? Of course we do. We're not, we're not hermits. We don't want to go live on an island all on our own and not engage with other people. Other people are enormously valuable to us. This is pretty obvious in our lives. The problem is that not everyone is enormously valuable to us. There are certain people who are very valuable to us, our dear friends, our family members, if they're good family members, if they're good people. The people we work with are good in that area. The people that we recreate with are good for us in that area. And we need to form friendships with people for these various purposes. Some friends are just the kinds of friends you get together with and hang out and talk about things, come what may. Those are your really, really close friends. Other friends might be friends you play tennis with or go rock climbing or sailing with or whatever. And so there are different kinds of friendships and different levels of friendship. Likewise for community. If you're into ballroom dancing, as I am, you might have a ballroom dance community that is a group of people you hang out with for that purpose. And if you're into sailing, you might have a sailing community. And if you're into visiting art museums, you might have a community of people who do that. So you can form or join communities, based around the values that you would like to commune about. You can even do this specifically about spiritual values. You don't have to go to church on Sunday to talk about what's important in life. You could have people over to your house. You could visit the park and go do that there. You could go on a hike and talk about these kinds of things at the top of a beautiful mountain, overlooking a beautiful vista. So you just don't need church or religion or a guy in the sky to tell you what's the right kind of community or what your friendships should be. You can think about this and you can figure it out with your friends and do what's good for your life. Take the next item: inspiration and role models, heroes, people you can look up to. Is that important? It's super important. This is why we love novels that depict, really amazing people who have admirable characteristics and who we want to emulate in life. It's why we watch movies and series about people with these kinds of characteristics and character. Right? Inspiration from role models and heroes is super, super important, but you don't have to get these from the Bible or from a book that doesn't really make much sense. The people who are allegedly good in the Bible are following God's commandments, and God sometimes commands them to kill their children or, slaughter whole villages or whatever. It's a really bloody, horrible book. That's not where to look for inspiration or role models. You can find inspiration and role models in really great fiction, in really great movies, in real life. There are people out there who are doing amazing things in tech or in philosophy or in the arts or in performances or whatever. There are people you can look up to based on your own values, and then there are people you can look up to in terms of their courage or their willingness to take on enormous risks to protect their values. And you see this kind of thing in novels and movies. Take Shane or Harry Potter or Mr. Sunshine. Any of the movies and books and television series that I love. You look at these, and what do you get out of them? You get enormous value from these extremely thoughtful and courageous people. So, inspiration and role models and heroes, yes, these are extremely important things. Do we need to go to church or read the Bible or believe in a guy in the sky for these to be real in our lives? Absolutely not. We don't need anything of the sort. And in fact, insofar as we assume that we must get these values from religion or the Bible or God, it interferes with our own judgment of what is good for our lives, our own judgment of the value of things and why one thing is good for us because we have these interests, and another character might give us inspiration because we love this aspect of his character. That's personal. That's up to us. We don't want somebody telling us what that should be or foisting alleged heroes on us from for instance, the Bible. I don't find anybody in the Bible heroic. The next item is beautiful music and other forms of art that extol and represent our highest values. Now, I just talked about a few of those things like novels and television shows and movies that depict heroes, but music is so important. I have, my personal preferences in music, and I'm sure you have yours. And I love to just listen to music and have it soak into my soul and fuel me. Do I need to go to church to hear that? Does it have to be choral music? I like choral music. That can be really beautiful too. But there's no reason I have to go to church to enjoy that, right? You probably got Spotify in your pocket. You can access any music you want, anywhere you want, anytime you want. And there's no reason in the world you have to go to church and go into a context where the idea is there's some super dictator who's, the maker of all truth and moral law, and you're supposed to come here and listen to music in his presence so that you can, be good with him. That's nonsense. Put music on and go out and sit on my patio and enjoy my garden. That's where I like to listen to music. And there's just no reason in the world you need religion for this. Another really important aspect of our lives is understanding our souls, ourselves, who we are. Who am I exactly? What is my essence? What is your essence? Right? This takes a lot of thinking, a lot of introspecting, thinking about what's important to me, what kind of future I want to have, what kind of people I want to engage with, what kind of goals I want to set, and why. What is it about me that makes the kind of work that I do and the kind of recreational activities that I do and the kind of art that I enjoy and music I listen to? Why is that all important to me? And what is it about me that makes me different and unique and worthy of my own love and esteem? This is spirituality. This is all about your soul, your spirit, and thinking deeply about that aspect of you. Again, you're not just meat in motion. You have a soul or a spirit. And by soul or spirit here, I just mean the elements of you that are non-physical, that pertain to your consciousness, right? We have a physical existence and we have a psychological existence. We have a material existence and we have a spiritual existence. Both of these things are real and they're integrated in the being we are, right? If I lose the consciousness and the spiritual element, then I'm just left, just me to what am I? I'm a corpse. And if I were the spiritual element without the body, I would be a ghost. Well, as Ayn Rand beautifully put it, a body without a soul is a corpse, and a soul without a body is a ghost. And we're neither of these things. We are instead an integrated being of body and mind, matter and spirit. And we want to understand the nature of this integrated being really, really well so that we can live beautifully. And that understanding is essential. Again, you don't need to go to church or read, the bloody Bible. Or look, if you want to read the Bible for knowledge purposes, fine. But to go to that book of all the books that have ever been written for guidance about your soul and your spirit and what's good and bad, right and wrong, it's just horrific. So we don't need religion for this. And indeed, religion gums the whole thing up if we try to bring religion into it. Let's go to sex, understanding the meaning and role of sex in life. Well, if you turn to the Bible for understanding of the meaning and role of sex in life, you're in for one hell of a nightmare. The Bible calls for murdering homosexuals. It calls for raping women and girls in villages that you've been ordered by God to go slaughter. It's a nightmare. That's not where you want to find out about sex. Sex is an enormously important aspect of human life. It's one of the activities that we engage in when we engage in sex properly that brings us the most pleasure, that brings us ecstasy. This is really important. And thinking through what sex is and what its role in your life is and with whom you should have sex and why, that's an enormously important thing for you to do. You don't need a bully or a dictator from on high telling you what to do there. You need to take seriously the value of this thing, both materially and spiritually, and integrate this into a rational view of this vital value. So what is sex? It's the coming together of people who are either in love or who have enormous respect and admiration for each other. I don't think you have to be, wildly in love with someone just to have sex with him or her. You certainly want to have admiration for and interest in this person. And then having sex is part of learning more about that person and helping you to either fall further in love or further in admiration for this person, or realize perhaps that this is not a long-term relationship for you. So sex is something that is a part of our romantic life, and that needs to be dealt with very carefully. You don't want to just go sleep with anyone. That's crazy on multiple levels, physically, for the obvious reasons, but also spiritually. The point of sex is that it's a celebration of life and of each other. Why? Because you love each other and you love coming together, or you deeply admire each other and you're interested in figuring out whether love can come from this union. And so you engage in sex, and it brings you enormous joy, at least when it's meaningful and really good sex. So this is another area where we need real knowledge about this vital value, but the last place in the world you want to get this from is religion or the Bible. What else? Understanding the value and role of family. Family is really important for most people, especially if you have a good family. But even if your family's not good, it's still important because you need to understand how to deal with a not good family. If you have parents who love you and siblings who get along reasonably well, and you have a really interesting and dynamic and growth inspiring family life, that's really wonderful. I happen to have that kind of family life, so I know about that. If instead you have family members who are horrible people, say your parents, beat you or worse, th- th- this is not a good situation. And you need to be able to judge that. And you need to be able to judge it rationally so that you can deal with this. The last thing in your world you need or want is some commandment telling you thou shalt honor your parents if your parents are horrible people. Morality isn't about commandments. It's about rational thought and the factual requirements of human life and happiness. And the way you judge your family is the way you judge anything else, according to the facts and by your own rational judgment, with your life and long-term happiness as your standard of value. So here again, yes, you need to understand what family is all about and what are the good and the bad of a given family. But you don't want to find this out through the church. You can't find this out through the church. The church doesn't know the first thing about your family or even the requirements of good family life. What else? You need to understand the nature and importance of virtues such as integrity and pride and justice and social harmony, these kinds of virtues and values. Are these things important? Is integrity important? Is it important to um, set your mind to understanding rational principles and then act in accordance with those principles as a matter of principle, as a matter of course in life? Yes. And it's important not only for you to do that, because that's how you live a beautiful life, is by living by life-serving principles. It's important for you to judge other people as to whether they have integrity, whether they have adherence to rational principles as a matter of a fundamental commitment in their lives. Pride, properly understood, not the biblical version of pride that tries to make it look like it's some kind of a vice, but what pride really is taking your mind and your life seriously and living up to the highest standards you can set for yourself, realistic standards, standards that have that correspond to the nature of a human being and the capacities of a human being. But to achieve pride is really important. How do you do it? You set a goal for yourself to live by principle, that's integrity, and to achieve the greatest values and the greatest life that you can possibly build for yourself in your career. Choose a career that you love and take it seriously and excel in that career and live up to the highest standards you can there. Do the same with your friendships and your romantic relationships. Take your free time or your recreational time seriously and make sure that you're living to your fullest potential there. And what happens when you do this is you love yourself. You take great pride in who you are. Pride and self-esteem are really quite closely related in this regard. Understanding the nature of justice and social harmony. Are these important values? Absolutely they are. How we judge people and how we treat people is enormously important to ourselves and to them and to our whole community, to the kind of world in which we want to live. We need to judge people in terms of their moral character. Are they rational, honest, productive, independent thinkers? Or are they irrational and non-productive and don't think for themselves, and they're dishonest. They pretend that facts are other than they are. You don't want those people in your life. You certainly don't want them closely in your life. You don't want them working for you, and you don't want to be working for them. And you don't want them as friends, right? You just don't want them in your life. So judgment on moral issues is extremely important, but judgment on other issues is really important too. If you're thinking of hiring someone, you need to determine whether he or she knows how to do the things, whether the person has the requisite skills for the position you're hiring for. That's an act of judgment. And hiring the right person is just, and it's good for you and for that person. And hiring the wrong person is unjust, and it's not good for either of you. So that's really important. And you can multiply these examples on end. Justice, treating people as judging people rationally and treating them as they deserve to be treated, is vital to your life and happiness. So, do you need that? You certainly do. But again, you don't need to go to church or read the Bible or believe in a dictator in the sky who's going to tell you what justice is. What you need is to think through the facts that give rise to the need of a concept like justice and judgment of people's character and just judgment of people in general, right? You need to do this. So the facts that give rise to the need of justice, and the kind of life you want to live and the kind of people you want to work with and the kind of people you want to befriend and the kind of politicians that you want at the helm of a government that is overseeing you and your friends and family using, force. You want to know how to judge these people. So justice is vital. Social harmony is a hugely important thing. We want to live in an environment where people mostly get along. Doesn't mean they agree on everything, but they're not shooting each other in the streets or, screaming at each other at the top of their lungs all the time. That's not life. You don't want to live that way. Social harmony is of value. How do we get that? Through justice, what we were just talking about, and through integrity and through rational thinking about the requirements of human life in a social context. So all of this stuff fits together. It's all of a whole. And if we think about our lives this way, if we take seriously the business of understanding the factual requirements of human life, including, crucially, the spiritual requirements of human life, all the things we've been talking about here, we put together a system of principles and ideas that can guide us in thinking and acting so that we can live beautiful lives in harmony with other people. This is really the ultimate goal of a spiritual endeavor. The whole purpose of spirituality and the reason we need the concept of spirituality is because we are spiritual beings. We have a soul, we have a mind, we have a rational faculty and an emotional faculty, and we need to know how to use these values and how to treat them correctly so that we can live beautifully. So this is what rationally replaces religion. Reasoned understanding of the actual secular nature and source of the legitimate values that people think they get from religion, but they really don't. For more on this vital subject, I encourage you to read Ayn Rand's novel, The Fountainhead, which is perhaps the most spiritually uplifting novel you'll ever read. And read my article, Reclaiming Spirituality for Lovers of Life, which you'll find by searching that title on the internet. And if you'd like to take courses or attend conferences on this and related subjects, visit objectivestandard.org, and you'll engage with a worldwide community of people who take their minds, their souls, and their lives seriously.